house needs painting, the grass needs mowing, where's he at?
Hi, this is Hank. Sorry I missed your call. Leave me your name and your number and I'll get back to you.
He's gone fishing.
Hello and welcome to Hank Parker Off the Water.
Off the Water with Hank Parker.
Golly, bum. One day I'm going to get it right.
One day.
One day. My beautiful co-host, Sarah Beth.
Hello.
Did you tell everybody hello? You did.
I sure did.
You're doing good.
Yes.
I like that. Well, we got a special show today. I've got a high school fishing coach. He's not only a high school fishing coach, but he's a friend of mine. His son has been on my television show, and he's quite the little stick. So welcome Jason Lemons, the coach of the Union High fishing team.
Glad to be here.
Hello, my buddy.
Good to see you.
How you been doing?
I'm doing well.
All right. Well, that's a wonderful thing, and we're going to talk about high school fishing today. And I've used Jason as a sounding board. All these ideas that I've had, and Union High, he was, how long have you been the coach?
This will be my second year.
Yeah, who was coach before?
Trip Duncan.
Yeah, when I went over and Mr. Duncan was there, we talked, and I actually talked to all the kids, and we had a great time, and that's when fundraising and sponsorship came up. I'm yet to go to any high school or junior high that the topic fundraising, money, sponsorship, or help has not come up. So there's definitely a need there.
There definitely is.
And that's, of course, that's what we aligned ourselves with Huckleberry Apparel to try to come up with a solution to the problem. And I think we've done that, and we're pretty excited about that. So I got Sarah Beth over here, and she's about the right age to be a high school fishing person.
Yeah, by almost 3 years.
Almost 2. Ooh,
3.
A long time. Been out of
Super
high
long.
school for a long time. Good.
Long time.
Yeah, good. Gracious alive. So, all right, Jason, we're going to dive into this high school fishing. Let me give a little bit of a background to who you are and what you do. He got involved, Jason got involved because his son, and that's how most parents get involved, whether it's coaching Little League or directing the Boy Scouts or heading up a fishing team. They have a son or a daughter involved. And Jason Lemons Jr., quite the fisherman now. He's girl crazy now, but he was on my show. And there are a lot of kids that you fish with that you realize it's going to take a lot for them to get good at the game. And then there's those kids you fish with that, man, they just blend right in. They catch on quick, they adapt. And I was fishing with Jason Jr. in a place that was really difficult. They were hitting a Texas rig plastic worm, and don't ask me why, but these fish won't hardly hit a drop shot. They won't hardly hit a shaky head. They like a Texas rig plastic worm, and it's in the current. And it's a delicate feel, and it's a delicate way to set the hook. You almost have to get the line totally tight and then ease into that hook set, and it's a real trick. And he missed, as I did myself, the first time I got on these fish. I missed them continuously, and he missed the first 4 or 5. But, buddy, once he got it, it didn't take him long. He picked up, and we had a great day and nailed them. So Jason Lemons Jr., quite the little fisherman, but that is what got you involved.
Correct. Actually went and bought a boat because of him. So yeah, we were really interested, and we got introduced to it that way. And you know what's funny in talking about him, when he bought his first bait caster, I had never thrown one. I was a river fisherman, so I always, Zepco reels, and that's all we talked about. Well, he taught himself how to fish with it. So then he taught his old man how to fish with one, and that's all I fish with now. So he gets credit for that. A lot of people will tell you that fathers won't tell you too much that their kids can outfish them. I'm proud to say mine can outfish me. So he is very instinctive fisherman. He's very good at what he does, and he's taught me a ton, and that's a good thing. I've taught him things in life, and he's taught me things that I didn't know. So yeah, when he come up wanting to do that, I was all for it. So went in 100%, spent a ton of money that first year, but every dime of it was worth it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I like that. I like it when you realize it's an investment.
Oh yeah.
You're investing in the kids. But now, hey, you stayed on. Jason Jr. is now graduated and gone on, and you stayed in and actually took over as the head coach.
Yep.
That's a bit unusual.
Yeah, it's been a little different. I must say I wasn't ready for him to be gone. But once Tripp came up and his son graduated a year before Junior graduated, he come up and said, pretty much that he had done fulfilled his side of it, and he felt like it was time to pass the torch, and asked me if I wanted to, because I was so involved with the team at the time. And I told him, yeah, I would do it, and I promised him that I would stay on for a while, to help grow this team. We went from just having 16 kids or so the years that we fished up to, I think we had 36 young men and women this past year, and we added a bank division because the needs have always been for boats. We had parents that call me and ask me, did the school provide the boats for the kids? And that's kind of, we chuckle about it, but there's a lot of people that didn't know that. So we have to turn kids away, because if the parent or a grandparent doesn't have a boat that they can get on, we have to either put them on one that's one short, because there can only be 2 kids on a boat and a captain. So we were turning kids away, and it really broke mine and my assistant coach Wesley Pruitt's heart. It was a thing. So Wesley stepped up this year, and we entered the bank division, where the kids that didn't have a boat, they fish at ponds, and they just a part of the team. So if we had a child that couldn't fish on the main lake, the big tournament, we had alternates that we could bring up. We wasn't able to do it this year because nobody got sick or couldn't go this year, so we didn't have an opportunity to bring them up. But in the future, that's the way we want to plan on doing and move it forward. So it was a learning curve this year, but it was a good year. So.
Well, I like the way the schools, and I think it's probably more lip service than it is actuality. No kid left behind, you know. So I like that philosophy on high school fishing. No kid left behind. We want to be able to help with Huckleberry Apparel. Danny Bennett has really been awesome to work with, and it is our goal to help these high school kids have an fundraising opportunity to raise enough money to be able to hopefully someday buy their own boats, hopefully someday get it in a position that they can rent boats or whatever it takes, that there'll be no kid that will be turned away because of inadequate resources, or no boats, or no boaters, or nobody to help out. We want to be able to bridge that gap. And almost everywhere I've gone, that's the greatest need. There's a lot of needs, as there is in everything, but I think the number one need is funds and the opportunity to raise enough funds to be self-sufficient. Now, do you agree with that, or do you think there's other things that are top priority?
Yeah, money's always like the top need. The kids that don't have the funds to come in, we like to try to have some funds in the club fund to help. Because, we have sponsors sometimes that tell us that, hey, if a child comes and they can't afford to be in it, they can't afford to have the equipment to be in it, let us know and we'll pick it up. And we've had several churches in our area that have sponsored children that wouldn't have got to fish if it wasn't for that, which we're very grateful for all our sponsors, because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be able to do this. Because, a lot of people don't realize, our jerseys carry Union County High School's name, but we're in affiliation. We're not. We're considered a club to the school, and we get no funding. We get nothing other than the name of the school, so we can compete on a high school level. So when it comes down to it, we are 100% self-funded. Parents, sponsors, and donations is all that we have, and if it doesn't come in, the team suffers for it. so we have to have people that's got our back. And, with Huckleberry is going to be a great thing for us, because I'm with you, that if you can take that worry off of everything, then there's more enjoyment. There's more, because there's a lot of legwork this time of year for us, because we're in our off season right now. Our season doesn't start till September, and it runs through April of next year. So during the summer, we're having to scramble to get our sponsors up for the next year, and that's an issue, especially this year, because the economy is not the best this year. Like Jerry said earlier, it's an election year, and we're finding that sponsors are kind of shining the pockets this year. So we're really concerned this year. We'll be okay, but it really limits what we want to be able to do. We want to be able to take the kids out and do more than we got the funds to do. And you can't finance it off of one person, and all, because it's just too much of a financial burden, and there's a lot of work goes into it. So, but yeah, the finances and then the sponsorships, they're very critical, very critical. That's the top thing, because we desperately need the funding, especially with Union County being a smaller school, and the sport's growing as much as it is over the past few years, so the money is not following with the growth.
Were you aware of that, Sarah Beth?
I was not.
It takes they're treated like a club. Now, I've had the opportunity to meet with several school administrators and principals and different level of administrators, trying to figure out what it's going to take to start a fishing club within their school, and they're shocked to know that there's nobody out there that's providing money. They were under the impression that some of the fishing tackle companies had funds available, that if a school signed up, that they could draw from these funds. When they find out that, the county money is not available to them, school money is not available, state money is not available. So it's, as you said, Jason, they're treated almost as if a club. But, that's nothing unique. The bands, high school bands, have been facing that same issue for years, and they started selling these world's famous chocolate bars and raising money to be able to go on field trips and to be in parades and do different things that they weren't able to do. And that's a good model to follow, but for you guys and your needs, $1 off of a candy bar, $2 profit is not going to help you skin the cat. You need more money. And so the idea of Huckleberry coming on and saying, okay, we're going to open up our catalog, you sell a hat and you make $10. You sell a t-shirt, you make $12. You sell a hoodie, you make $15. We're talking significant money.
Definitely.
And that's exciting. And Solar Bat jumped in there and said, okay, we'll give you a $165 pair of sunglasses. You can sell them, the Hank Parker model, which I think is the world's greatest sunglasses and definitely got the best name in the fishing world.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll make those available to you for $120. And when you sell a pair, we'll give you $20. So every time they sell a pair of sunglasses, premium sunglasses at a discounted price, they make $20. So when you add that up, if you get a student that's willing to work, every kid out there ought to be able to sell 8 or 10 items, with parents and grandparents and neighbors and aunts and uncles. And it's quality merchandise. The shirts are top quality, the hoodies, everything is, the hats. We're talking about a great looking hat that Richardson hats, the world's greatest. And
that's what this hat is.
They're just really good. That same
Richardson,
thing. Yeah. And it's all available for these kids if they want to make it. And I think it's going to be twofold. I think it's going to teach these kids a work ethic, that it is not something you're entitled to. And no matter what you do, Mama's going to give you the money, or Papa, or the government. It's not going to happen. If you want it to happen, it's available to you. It's very, very achievable. That is the one thing that when I talked to Danny Bennett and we were putting this whole thing together. I said, Danny, I don't want it to be something that they got to go out and sell 100 items to make enough money to be. I want it where they just sell 8 or 10, sell it to their family members, and have adequate funds to support what they need. So I want it to be achievable. He agreed, and he was the only company that I talked to out of about 30 that was willing to give up 30% of the profit, 30% of everything they make. Now that is not just profit. That's structured if we get sales up there. Like where we are right now in the beginning, we're losing a lot of money. I put skin in the game myself, so I've got risk myself. And I don't really care. I'm not worried about that. I want to, and if it bombs, I want to be able to say, okay, guys, I listened to you. I worked hard. I structured a program that will work for you. But if you're going to achieve it, you got to make it happen. You got to get off the couch. You got to go knock on the door. You got to go see your aunts and uncles. You got to go see mama and papa. You got to present this, and you got to work a little bit. But there's gratification for those that are willing to put forth the effort. So I think it's going to, I think it's going to create a work ethic for these kids that's going to show them. So that's part of training. That's part of education, to realize in this world, you get what you work for. And I know a lot of people in this era, the younger kids, think that mom and dad ought to provide because I'm going to school and I got to do my homework and I got this. But I'm gonna tell you, when I grew up, we were mowing grass, we were carrying out the neighbor's trash. We were doing whatever we could to make a little spending money because we wasn't entitled to it. I mean, if you wanted it, you did something to earn it, and I think kids need to learn that today.
Yeah, I was sitting there thinking as you was talking about that, to put it in perspective, a lot of people don't understand the cost of this stuff. Because like just using me as an example, I know every boat that's out there faces the same challenges because you've got fuel to get to the tournaments, you got the tournament fees themselves per boat. But I was telling a person the other day, they were talking about, that's a cool thing. I said, yeah. On average, it costs a captain about $300 a tournament to take a child to a tournament. So you times that by 12, that's that money out of your pocket. Now, we do have some of the parents that'll give a little back to help with the gas and things like that. But, and it's funny when you was talking about the work. We tell the kids, when they come on the thing, they get discouraged because they're not catching fish. One of my favorite sayings to them is, well, the fish is not going to just jump in the boat. You got to get out there and work for them. And that's the thing. We try to make sure, we're not a participation trophy kind of team. We look at you earn, you keep. So, if you listen and you do what you're told and things like that, then, the spoils is going to be there for you. We're going to put you where the fish are, catch them. And, it's the same thing with this. We're looking at, when the Huckleberry takes off big, giving these kids the opportunity to show, hey, you want this team to flourish, well, it's going to fall on your back just as much as it is on ours, which is a great thing. I believe once this gets going and people get word of it and everything, because some of the products, even you didn't mention the great Hank Parker shirt that's out. I've heard dozens of people ask me, hey, I've got to get me one of those shirts. So, there's people standing in line waiting for this, to be, it could be a great thing for our area once they know it and we can get it in place.
Well, we're excited about that, and as soon as your season starts back, we're going to make it available to you. You will have a selling period of time, and all those Hank Parker spinnerbait shirts are going to be made available, and everything that Huckleberry has. They got a lot of stuff kind of like Simply Southern. They got a lot of labs and
they're very similar. I love their graphic prints. He has one with his chocolate lab, or no, not his chocolate lab, his yellow lab on the back of it. It was his name, Hank. Hank.
Yeah.
Say it rings a bell.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're great prints. I like them personally, and that's honestly saying a lot coming from me because I'm very picky on my clothing and the type of T-shirts that I like for graphic prints. So I'm actually really happy with how they turned out.
So you give them a thumbs up on their designs?
I do. I give them a thumbs up. 100%.
That's awesome. Well, let me ask you, while I got you, let me ask you what you think about fundraising. opportunities. You're young, and you just come out of high school, so you know kind of what it's like to be under the gun academically. But if you want something, do you think it's unfair to ask a student to participate and work a little bit, or?
No, I absolutely think it's fair, especially seeing as it's for their benefit and for their own good or for their own education. You should work for it. I don't think that's not fair at all. Like, I think that's very just. If anything, it's probably teaching them more of a valuable lesson on how to sell themselves. If they want to go on to be a professional bass fisherman, they're going to have to learn those skills. You know, I feel like that develops that early on, and it teaches them the correct way to present yourself in the future.
Your brother, Alec, was completely blinders on to any career other than being a Major League Baseball pitcher.
Yep.
And everything he did throughout his high school career and college career was focused on, I'm going to be a professional baseball player.
Right.
And the work ethic, the hours spent on the practice field, the hours in the weight room, the diet that he stayed on, and all the regiment, he was determined. He did not get one major league offer.
Nope.
He had some great high school years and started out looking good in college. He went to a camp where they taught him to throw the baseball a lot faster.
Right.
And he lost control. And so he ended up with his dream of being a professional baseball player. It fell through. But I'm looking at a kid as a result of all of that training, discipline, dedication. He's a much stronger person today in the business world than he would have been. So people say, well, all that dream and all that work went down the drain when you didn't get one professional offer. No, it actually formed him to be the man he is today and made him more disciplined, more structured, and more aggressive than he would have ever been had he not done it. Now, would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I'd say it all had a greater plan, and he was very down for that, and I think that was a big turning point for God in his life. You know, I know one of his close friends got drafted to the Los Angeles Angels, and that was one of the biggest kickers for him. I know he got really down after that, but he went to medical sales school, and he found a new passion. He loves it. He's great at what he does, and so he just continues to grow there, but he applies a lot of what he learned. Probably a lot of that discipline goes into his work ethic as well.
His mama and I both agree, my wife Martha, who is his grandmother as well as I'm his grandfather, we both think that the discipline and the structure he learned as a baseball player formed him to be the person he is today. I think these kids, Jason, that are going through high school fishing, going through the hardships, now if they learn how to be productive to support themselves with a work ethic, I think it will pay dividends beyond. They learn a lot on the water, and that's important, and they learn how to catch fish. But I think this may be as impactful to them as baseball was to Alec. Even though he never went to that next level that provided him a living, most of these kids are not going to be professional bass anglers. But I think the lessons they learn, and especially through this Huckleberry opportunity, I think they're going to learn lessons that's going to prepare them and make them more structured when they enter the world of making a living.
I agree. They definitely got a lot, because when I first took the team on, we were really growing still, from where we had been like self-competing pretty much, and we went into the actual South Carolina Bass Association, SC Bass Nation tournament trails which give these kids the opportunity to move on to the next level, which is a college level, and people doesn't realize, there's colleges out there looking for the next greatest person, USC Union. Cameron Kuhn, the head coach, he has got a bunch of hammers on his team. They actually finished 25th in the nation this year or 24th, I think it was, which is very good. I mean, you're talking Union, South Carolina, just a blip on the map, but he's got that college and he's producing some very good anglers coming out. But the discipline and everything that comes with this, when the kids come in, they think, oh, we're just going fishing. And when we go back to junior, that's one of the things that junior got so competitive that he forgot the fun side of the fishing. And I had many talks with him about it because, he kind of walked away from it and stayed gone for a little while, but he's finally back fishing again. But he just burned himself out because he come to a conclusion. He knew that he wasn't going to make it as a professional fisherman because of the fact he said, I know how to fish, but I don't know how to market. And he said that's a major thing. If you look at a lot of the professionals now, their marketing is constant. He's not a big talker in front of a bunch of people. So he knew at a certain point, once he got to a certain point, that he's kind of like, well, this is as far as I'm going to go with it. So when college offers came, which he got a few, he wasn't interested because he said, I just don't understand putting 4 years of my life into going here, and I know I'm not going to go any further. So he stepped away from it because of it. And I mean, people don't realize, there's a lot of pressure on these kids, even with work, because not only do, we require them to perform when they're fishing, we want them to perform at their best, but, this year we held them to a higher standard on their grades because some of these kids forget, hey, the grades is going to put you further in life than the fish ever will. So, we really had to crack down, and we had a few kids this year that had to set a couple of tournaments out because the report cards wasn't reflecting, our standard. So, we're putting it on that part of it as well. So not just working to get, for the team itself, but making sure that their life is straight and they're putting their priorities in order because, I had a kid tell me point blank this past season, I ain't going to worry too much about it because I'll just go to college and fish. And I told him, I said, I hate to bust your bubble not being rude, but I said, if your grades don't come up, you're not going anywhere because there's not a college going to take you without grades. So they all play hand in hand with each other. So, we're trying to teach them at this starting out level because we running right now from 6th grade. We opened it up this year so we could have Sims from 6th to 8th grade as our junior teams, and then from 9th to 12th, the high school league. So we opened it up so they could get more years in. But, as from what I understand and the rules, they can fish as low as 6 years old. And
Wow.
but
Wow.
we kind of put a cutoff on it because some of us have a hard time seeing a 6-year-old in some of the conditions that we're in sometimes because this is not. People think, oh, they're just going out there to fish. I can tell you, I have videos and pictures of kids that are completely exhausted and like in the back of a truck asleep with their mouth open. I call it ugly sleeping. But I mean, they are up. We get up sometimes 2:30 in the morning to go to these lakes and we sit on the water and we're out there to 3:30, 4 o'clock and a 2-hour drive back home. So these kids are 100% as soon as the sun's up. I mean, they are just fishing their hearts out. I had to make Junior eat. He would just fish, and he would not eat, and I'd have to make him. But that's the only kid I've ever seen that can hold a sandwich in one hand and trying to reel a bait caster in the other. So, but
That's a reoccurring trend, I'd say, amongst fishermen. I'm hearing that a lot. Nobody likes to eat or drink or take a break.
No.
We talked earlier about some of the pioneers of the days of fishing, and the first guys that I really met up with that was all about time control and taking advantage of every second was Tommy Martin and Ricky Green. They taught me real early. It was about my second year on. Matter of fact, it was my first year. At the end of the first year of my on the tournament circuit, I drew Tommy, and of course he was a classic winner from just 2 years before that, and then he and Ricky Green worked together, and those guys fished like they were on fire. I've never seen anybody, and so I learned really early on watching world champion Tommy Martin fish that he didn't waste any time. He took advantage of every cast, so I like that. But going back to what you said, I like leverage. I think leverage is a good thing, and when you got a kid that loves to fish and he wants to fish, and his grades are not where they need to be, what great motivation is it for him to get those grades up if he's going to go fishing next week? So I like leverage, and I think there's been a many kid that would have never made it through high school and certainly wouldn't have made it through college if it wasn't for the motivation of I've got to get that grade point average up to be able to play football.
Yep.
So not everybody's got the physique for football, and that is the coolest thing about fishing. It doesn't matter if you're a girl or a boy. It doesn't matter if you're big or short or tall. It doesn't matter. The water is level for everybody. And I love a coach like Coach Lemons that is conscientious about kids' overall perspective to make sure they don't burn themselves out. You don't put yourself in too strenuous of a position, but yet you've got to work, you've got to perform to be rewarded, and you got to maintain your grades. It's a package. And I've heard a lot of kids, I work with the FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I think they're awesome. And I've heard a lot of kids say, you know, it were those coaches that had the heart. I know you're a Christian. I know your belief system is the Bible's God's Word, and there's a lot to be learned from that. And to be able to care about these kids and give them good, sound doctrinal advice is so valuable. That's why when you get a great coach that care about their kids, not just about winning. Winning is wonderful, but winning doesn't mean anything if you don't have the right structure in place and that your priorities are not where they need to be. And I'm thankful that you are the kind of coach and that care about your kids and look at their overall physical and mental health to be able to perform and to do what they need to be doing and make sure their schoolwork's up to grade.
Well, we when I took this thing over, that was one of the things, you know, you mentioned about the Christian side of it. You know, we really pushed the reverence of our children because we want, you know, I can't say that I've not lost my cool a few times. Junior's probably going to laugh when he hears this because he's heard me, you know, be very passionate, as I say, about things. But one of the things I wanted to make sure of was the team was going to be very reverent. We were going to be respectful of others. But, you know, we even went further with it. I know you've seen it. Our jerseys, when I designed our jerseys, changed the designs on it, we put on our collar. One of the things I did is I put a Matthew verse on there, and I didn't write it out on this collar. That's for a reason, because we had children that would come up and ask us, well, what is that? Well, the verse is, follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. So we come up and said, I told a kid, you know, last year, he asked me about it, and he said he didn't have a Bible. So we made sure that was a possibility. But I got a call about 6 weeks after that he had called me to tell me that he had got saved.
Isn't that amazing?
And, you know, I look at it this way. The one thing that we did that I really wanted to make sure was to put that on there to make them inquisitive. I want to know what that says. Somebody that don't get presented the gospel, you don't have to shove it down their throat. I think God will find a way to put that seed and plant it, because that seed grew from just a conversation of saying, you know, I don't understand, what is that? And, you know, that was a good thing. And that's why we leave it that way. We want them to be inquisitive about it. If you just lay it out there and they see it, they see churches on every corner. You know, so, but, you know, you put that in there and you try to live and do the things, you know, in front of them. You know, that's winning at life, in my opinion, you know, because, you know, we only get one time around this whole world. Have fun, but, you know, at the end of the time, you know, where you going to be when they lay you to rest?
Yep.
You know, we want to make sure, you know, on the side of it, you know, because you got to kind of play the cards because of the way the world is today. I mean, some people get offended by, you know, if you put Bible verses on things and all. I've had people, you know, I've had parents that's asked me about it, why? You know, and I've told them the day that we cannot have this is the day I resign. So, you know, and that's kind of the way we're going to leave it. You know, I'm not shoving God down their throat, but I'm going to give them the opportunity. If they want to talk to me about it, we're going to sit on that boat and have us a good conversation about it.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. What you think of that, Sarah Beth?
I think that was awesome, honestly. I think y'all are doing a great thing with what y'all have going on. It sounds like it's making an impact on a lot of kids' lives.
That's what we're hoping.
Well, we need to make an impact. We need to make a positive impact. I was reading a devotional today, Billy Graham devotional, and he was talking to a college professor. This was several years back, I suppose. Billy Graham's been gone for a while. He's all up in heaven living the life that we all are looking forward to someday. And but he wrote in his devotional, he was talking with a secular professor at a college. And he asked him, he said, you're teaching all these kids today. What do you think our greatest need is in America and on our college campuses? And this professor said, well, Dr. Graham, you're going to think this is strange because I'm not a Christian and I'm not a religious man, but what I see is we need biblical principles applied for these kids to have stronger morals. There's so much temptation in the world, there's so much evil in the world, there's so much promotion of self-indulgence, that these kids are involved in things that they shouldn't be involved in, and peer pressure is to drag them deeper. And without a foundation of strong morals, it's more overwhelming than they can stand for. So here I am promoting biblical principles, and that's not who I am. I don't live that. I'm not a Christian. I don't believe all the things that you believe, but I do know from what I see as a college professor, our kids are in trouble, and the morals of this country have gone down, and the peer pressure is greater, and the evil is greater. The more wickedness and opportunity through social media, through television, through music, everything is promoting a very a lifestyle that varies from biblical principles, and the morals have decayed, and the kids are under attack, and they're not strong enough to overcome it because they don't have the backbone or the foundation to stand on. And I think what America needs more than anything on the college campus is kids that have a strong personal conviction on morals. And I think that that's a wonderful thing to teach, whether it's baseball, whether it's bowling, whether it's volleyball, or whether it's bass fishing, is you're not going to be any greater than your own morals and your own standards and your own convictions and your own principles. And so you have to instill into kids today what is important. And I love fishing. It has been so good to me. It's a big part of my life. But all of that pales in comparison with my personal relationship to Jesus Christ. The world's greatest fisherman is not going to go to heaven because he can catch fish. The world's greatest fisherman, whomever he may be or she may be, is going to go to heaven because they select to choose Jesus Christ as their Savior. He died on the cross. He gave his life for you, and all you have to do is surrender your life to him, and he will take you to heaven. And it's a simple guarantee, and that's what's important. So if I taught everybody in the world how to fish, if I could give you every bit of the knowledge that I have in my pea brain about bass fishing and left out my personal relationship and my testimony to Jesus, it's a total absolute bust. It's rust and dust. It has no value. The value in life are the principles that God has set, and we're all in need of a Savior. And for those that select him, they've got a guarantee. He says, I'll stick closer than a brother. I'll never leave you nor forsake you. You got a guaranteed ticket to heaven. And if you don't accept him, you got a guarantee that you're not going to go to heaven. And we all need to talk about that. And if it makes people mad, it makes people mad. If people say, well, I'm going to turn you off and I'll never watch you again, because turn me off. Never watch me again. That's your prerogative. But I will tell you, I was a bankrupt sinner, lost with a messed up set of standards and morals. And when I got saved, Jesus, I like what Randy Travis said. You know, people said, Randy sang a song that said, what saved my soul was good old rock and roll. And I added Facebook. I tell people all the time, what really changed my life is rock and roll and Facebook. And Randy Travis sings a song, when I put my feet on the rock and my name on the roll. And then I add Facebook when I put my face in his book. My whole life is now complete. So that's my story, and that's way more important than all the Bassmaster Classics that's ever been, all the bass tournaments ever been, every bass that's ever been caught. What is important is my personal testimony for Jesus Christ. So I'm deeply appreciative to any coach in any sport. That's what's so wonderful about the FCA. They encourage and they have organized materials that help these coaches and help these kids minister. You know, in school, for me to go to a public school during school hours and talk about the gospel is a violation of South Carolina law. Mm-hmm. It's a violation of federal law. But if I'm a student, then I'm free and clear to go talk about it. So the FCA, they recruit kids to go tell other kids about Jesus.
Yep.
And that's awesome. But when you get a coach that realizes the most important things in life are not necessarily on the surface as fishing or a ball or whatever it is, but it's developing these kids and giving them the gospel, allowing them to make the choice on what they're going to do with the gospel, which that's up to everybody. It's your choice. And by design, if God wanted us to be puppets, he would have made us puppets, but he gave us a free will, a free choice, and it's our choice. But I'm deeply respectful to a coach that takes that at heart and instills values in the team and the kids.
Yep. Well, see, you know, we look back at things, you know, I know when I was a child, I grew up in the era watching you become who you are. So, you know, and to had that positive influence on me, you know, you try to pass that on because, you know, I grew up in the time of no social media, no cell phones, you know, we actually did things.
Good old days.
Good old days, yeah. So, you know, we actually talked to each other. So, you know, face to face. But, you know, seeing that, because I think back a lot of times, you know, and when I was a child, never in my wildest dreams would I ever be thinking that one day I'd be sitting beside one of the greatest, you know, people I thought in my life at the time, you know, just because I was connecting to you through a television, you know, watching you on TV, you know, that one day I'd be sitting here talking to you face to face, you know, and the friendship that we have, you know, which I cherish, you know, but, you know, you don't realize, you know, when the way that you are and you publicly announce Christ the way you are, how much influence you have on so many people. And, you know, the legacy of that is what you've instilled to people all around the world that's watched you, and you've done this, you don't realize how much more that grows because that seed is planted. So, you know, even in myself, you know, growing up in a Christian home, I had the luxury of that. But I'm like you, when my father, when he wasn't saved, I remember, I tell people all the time, you know, people say, oh, I don't know. When my dad got saved, he was like a night and day person. And I'll say that to this day. I knew something happened to him. So, you know, it's like you know, people can say whatever they want to, but, you know, these influences that we're trying to have on these kids, you know, where some of these families don't have a strong male presence, you know, you try to be that presence to them because, you know, you look at it this way, we may be the only Christ that these kids see. And that's the thing that's happening to these days is church attendance and churches are just falling every day, you know, because kids, you know, these kids are growing up now are not believing. You know, when I was a kid, it was 3 days, Sunday night, Sunday morning, and Wednesday, and every night of revival. It wasn't, you know, so, you know, it ain't like that these days. You know, it's just, you know, it's totally different. It's, you know, Christ in schools and things like that, you know, everything has changed. So, you know, if we can get out on the water and just slip these conversations in, you know, you don't have to shove it down their throats. You got to be careful how you do it. You don't want to offend, but there's ways that you can do this thing, and, you know, we can reach people still. And, you know, that's what we try to do. You know, these morals, they're going to carry on, you know, these little conversations, these little fun times that we have. You don't have to have all the, you know, we want to keep them away from the drugs and the bad things, you know, to let them see that you can have fun and have a good life with it. You know, you don't have to go out and be this person. You know, you can be over here and be respectful and do your things and you know, really succeed at things. You know, really put something in them to like really drive hard for. You want to be a professional, then work for it.
Yeah, boy, you hit a topic there when you just passed it by pretty quick when you talked about drugs. drugs is an epidemic, man. It's you and I live in a county that there is so much drug manufacturing, so much drug sales, and I don't know that we're unique. Maybe every county in America is facing these same issues, but I know some really people, friends of mine, that their children or grandchildren have died from fentanyl and drug overdose, and two involved in shootings that was a dispute over drug sales. And our high schools and our high school kids are infiltrated with drug pushers, and the idea that if you want a thrill, you can get it through drugs. And it is literally, absolutely, literally destroying our young people. And we have found that there was an old bumper sticker that said, take a kid hunting or fishing and you'll never have to hunt that kid.
Yep.
If you can engage with that kid and give them something from an adult perspective, show them that you care, show them that you're there. And the fishing world is something that is tangible, it's real. All this cell phone stuff is make-believe, it's fantasy world, it's not real. So to engage them in the outdoors where there is something tangible, you can touch it, you can feel it, you can apply the thrill of catching a fish. You don't need necessarily to look for a needle or something you can snort up your nose or smoke to get a thrill. Man, there's nothing like catching that bass. And I've watched kids from 2 years old, even younger than that, a year old, up to 100 years old, catch a fish and they smile, they giggle, and they laugh. It is a thrill. And to be able to turn people onto that and to share that and to introduce that into our public school system. Man, as a kid, if you're a little girl and you're a chubby little girl and you're short, you don't have many opportunities. And I mean, I don't say that ugly, but you're not going to make the volleyball team or the basketball team. You're probably not going to be a cheerleader. So you're left out. But man, you can be on that fishing team. You can have an opportunity to be competitive. It's no restrictions. And so we got so many kids that don't qualify for baseball. Yep. They don't qualify for football. They don't qualify for basketball. They don't qualify for volleyball. They're all open to the sport of fishing. Fishing is wholesome. Fishing is healthy. Fishing is inspiring. And to be able to offer somebody something to be a part of takes away at least a portion of that desire to get out and do drugs or be mischievous. And unfortunately, in our day, we smoke rabbit tobacco or drank a beer.
Yeah.
And now, man, these kids don't realize that one time can take their life. I mean, one time, all this fentanyl crazy stuff, one time can take their life or get them hooked for life. And so it's so important to be there for them. And fishing is a wonderful sport to keep them out of all that.
Yeah, we went back, even on the show when Junior was there, I know you asked him about, he was playing football. He played baseball a lot. He was a basketball player. I mean, he's 6'6". He's very tall, skinny. He's fast. He does things. And he, knew that was not what he wanted, And so, he had the abilities to stay in that. But you hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of children out there that would not have an opportunity for a high school sport, not being. But I'm going to tell you right now, and I'll be the first one to admit it. Girls make great fishermen. They don't let your gender hold you back, because I can tell you, we went to the national championship in Pickwick 2 years ago. Tanner Duncan and Jason Jr. made it into the world finals, and we fished on Lake Pickwick. Never been there, nervous as we could be. We caught fish, but we got smoked by two girls from Texas. They won the whole thing out of 460 boats. A girl team from Texas won the Hartwell 600 and something boats here just a few weeks ago up there. So don't let, if there's any girls out there that's on the fence about this, trust me, I think it's so funny that these girls give these boys so much trouble, because I can tell you they can talk just as much trash on that water. And I've had a couple of my boys just pretty mad that they are getting, and I tell them, I said, well, they just like to talk. I said, no, they're performing. I said, if you don't step your game up, you're going to look bad. So, but the say on what you said, your bumper sticker, there's an old saying too, if you teach a kid to fish, he'll be too broke to do drugs. So, so that's another way of it too.
Yeah.
So
I like that. My wife's got a plaque in the kitchen that says, "Feed a man a fish, or give a man a fish and feed him for the day. Teach a man to fish and get rid of him for the whole weekend."
There you go.
What do you think about all these girl fishermen?
I think it's awesome, because I feel like for a long time there was a huge divide in the sport that women, it was kind of looked like, oh, you're just a girl, what do you know about fishing? I feel like that's still very evident, even especially if there's any female fishermen that are trying to make any sort of social media presence. There's so much like hate towards it, but I think it's awesome. I say just keep it up.
it'd be nice to see a woman going professional.
Yeah, well, there's some. There is
There's
some.
very few, but I mean, I think that's going to be something that's going to grow as well. Just as this sport, yourself, I know how big this is. When you have 600 and something boats, I mean, that's over 1,200 kids that is competing on a national level. That's the ones that made it. So if you do, a study on how many kids, if you've done a study over the past 20 years on bass fishing, the bass teams are actually getting big as the football teams and stuff now, because the schools don't want to admit this, and I know legislation's going through South Carolina right now that is going to mandate maybe that high school fishing goes to be a sport, in the school, because it's such a hard presence. It's going to be a slippery slope with that, because once you get into that realm, coaches like myself that are not educated, that can be in a teacher situation, I don't know that they'd be coaches anymore. So, it's a catch-22 for us. Yeah, we want the schools to accept us as a sanctioned sport, and that we really, we're a competitive sport, because fishing is very strenuous. It's very tiresome. It's just, I know you don't get banged up like a football game, but I can promise you, my hands hurt, my back hurts from standing on the deck, wake boats coming by, things like that. So, I mean, it is not for the faint of heart. And I tell these kids that when we first do it, this is a competition. It is sun up to almost sundown of throwing and retrieving for the possibility of 5 fish that's going to get you a trophy on the wall.
I love that, though. I like instilling in them the value of a work ethic. And if there's one thing my generation has failed at, and I tell this to Sarah Beth, I tell it to all my grandkids, I tell it to my own kids, we failed wanting our kids to have it better than we have it. So we tried to make everything easier for them. And we cushioned everything, and we tried to provide everything. Oh, you don't have to work. Daddy will take care of that. Oh, I'll help you do this. I'll give you this. I'll give you that. And we did not make them earn and work. And as a result of that, we have raised some spoiled brats. We've got a generation that feel entitled. We've got a generation that think once they work so many hours out of the day, that's their obligation, and then they come home and disengage, and they've done their job. And I don't think you work from sun up to sundown. There's a lot of different jobs and a lot of different chores. That's a word you don't hear anymore.
Yep.
But everybody ought to have a chore, and everybody ought to take the opportunity to learn how to provide for themselves. And I think all of that is taught in the fishing opportunity that is provided by the schools. And if you wait till a kid gets out of school, there's going to be so many kids that's going to miss that opportunity, and we're going to lose them. So I think it's critical to the future of the sport of fishing. I think it's critical to the betterment of America, of homes and mankind. I think it is vital that we get these kids involved in the outdoors and outside and realize that there's something other than 2 thumbs and a cell phone.
It's been proven that a child that's involved with a sport, excels, in school. A lot of times they're more critical thinkers, especially like in our field, because there's so many aspects of when you go out on a lake that I think a lot of kids, when they get into sport, they don't realize, like, wow, man, there's a lot: water temperature, color of the water, color of the baits. I mean, knowing this, knowing all the knots you got to tie, you got to do it in a fast set. So it's really overwhelming for them. And I tell them at the first of the season, look, take it step by step, because it's going to be overwhelming. Some of the kids we took on their first boat ride running 60 miles an hour, they were like, holy moly, what is this? I had a kid tell me after the first tournament, man, I enjoyed fishing, but man, I love that boat ride more than anything, because you really drive that boat around this lake. But, to get that aspect of it, but, you get them involved with this thing, and it makes them want to achieve more. I'd say the parents that are involved with this thing is a big deal too, because, people don't realize, when these weigh-ins happen, all these parents come together, man, it's like a community, like anything, the dance mom things and stuff like that. Well, bass moms and dads, they're just the same way. They get out there and they clap and support. And it's a big thing, having that presence, not only, well, I'm going to send my child off to do this, support that child. Be there for them when they come in. They've been out there fighting hard day. If they come in and they haven't caught a fish, you know what I tell them? Hey, you may not got one day, but you gave it your best. I mean, we come back safe. We're not hurt. Hey, that's a good day. We apply what you learned today and just move on from it. Try to make that next, because that was the same thing when Junior, when he was so big in it. And I know I speak on him a lot, but that's all I've known for the past several years. But to see him sitting in the garage until midnight, and he's got to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to put this rod with this, I'm going to put this with this, because he was constantly thinking, too, on top of that, and all the other obligations that he had with his. I can say, hey, it was a proud dad moment to go out there and see him, putting the dedication into it, and things like that. But, the support from my side of it had to come as well. So some of the greatest memories of my life will be on that boat. My wife don't understand. She said, you and Jason, y'all bonded a lot more. I said, but you don't realize that bond that you get from being there together like that, and just that's something that you'll never have replaced. And there's nothing money in this world could ever buy those moments. So,
people misuse the word fellowship, and I'm guilty of that. But if you read the Bible, the word fellowship really means to be in one accord. Mm-hmm. One accord. Not necessarily just a social gathering where you hang out, and I use that a lot, but a social gathering where you're all in one accord. Your focus is the same, you agree, you're aligned. That is true fellowship. So when you got a kid out there, whether he's your son or a friend, and you're on the water and you're all in one accord, that's true fellowship, and it's impactful, but it's an awesome opportunity to bond beyond what you would just normally, if you're out there. You take a ball game, for example, and I'm not against baseball at all, but in a ball game, you've got a kid and he's in the dugout. Mm-hmm. And he's got his job to do, and he's focused on that job. He's isolated from his dad, his mom. He's isolated from the other players that are out on the field, or the player that is at bat, or whatever the situation may be. The camaraderie in fishing is so much greater. You spend time together. You depend on each other. If you got two guys in the boat, or a guy and a girl in the boat, or two girls in the boat, and you're competing, they contribute to your success, you contribute to their success, so you're more dependent on one another, and so you end up having a much greater bond than you do. Not that a football team or a baseball team don't have a great bond. I'm not saying that. The sport of fishing is just different. And when it comes down to one-on-one, when you're a dad and you're going to take your child fishing, you spend all day with him. Yep. When you take him to play baseball, you turn him over to the coach, you put him in the dugout, and you don't have any time with him. So the influence that is made not by you, and the opportunity for you to communicate with your son is pretty much gone because you turned him over to the coach and the team. But when you're fishing with your own son, when you're fishing with your own daughter, you got them one-on-one for however long you're on the water. And again, that fellowship, being in one accord out there, it's so much more impactful. And there's so many more opportunities to communicate with your kids on the lake than it is in the dugout.
I would say, I was thinking too, just a minute, if people, needs are needs, the money and things like that. But, also too, one of the things that I can say that there's another need. If there's adults out there that have been on the fence about these, kids and stuff, there's a lot of children out there that really want to do this sport. And I would challenge an adult, that have the means to do it, to go and support a team. Hey, take that boat down there and, get you 2 kids, hey, take them out, and see, it's a commitment for sure, but, it's something that would impact a child's life greatly. There's a lot of people say, oh, I wish I could do. Well, there's needs at every school every year for boats. They need boats. They need captains that'll step up and do things like that. I challenge, anybody that's out there, because I know this goes out, the whole world or the United States or whatever. Hey, I challenge anybody that's been on the fence that want to do this. There is no replacement for the joy that you will get for the accomplishment of these children, because you are making a difference in their life where they would not have an opportunity.
I like that.
Absolutely.
I think that is an awesome challenge to close out. We're out of time, and so Coach Lemons has issued a challenge. Get involved. Go to one of these events. Provide a boat.
Absolutely. And those high school forums are always in the description below, as well as a link to Huckleberry.
So get involved with Huckleberry. Do a fundraiser, get some money, go with your team, and Coach Lemons, we appreciate you being with us today, buddy. And you can look at the camera over here and tell everybody goodbye. And Sarah Beth, you can look at your camera and you can tell everybody goodbye, or I'll say goodbye from both of you.
Goodbye. See you next week.
There you go. Sarah Beth, all right, your turn, Jason.
Goodbye. Was glad being here. Thanks for having us.
Well, we sure appreciate you being here, and I'll see you next week. I say God bless you, and thanks for tuning in. And again, we'll see you next week.